she's been working on these issues, whether it was a dissertation on hydroelectric power in Brazil, or her work on evaluation later, where she was looking at rural projects through urban eyes, or her work on PBOs. This work has been a central theme of her research. And what's distinctive about it for all of us is the way in which she's done this work. She's studied organizations throughout her life, so she's brought that lens to look at local economic development as well. So in every facet, it's been a conversation with the organizational dimension of a question that, as she put in her first class that I attended, goes like this: that what are the circumstances under which you get locally rooted, broad-based economic development that generates not just that is income distributing rather than income concentrating, but that generates lessons not just for what to do in that particular place, but lessons about spillovers beyond the project, beyond the firm, beyond the region, and even beyond borders in other countries. And she has taught a generation of students to do that work, which we'll see 3 examples of today. But I must say one thing, that the hallmark of what we're going to say, we've struggled a lot in how to label her method, and it just defies labeling. The closest I can come to that is an apprenticeship that we've gone through, where she's liberated us from any models that we might have, and she's taught us how to empirically bring to bear whatever standard models it was that we were looking at to reality on the ground, and ask these questions of how is it that in these very difficult circumstances that any of us are working within, where nothing is perfect, why do we see success? And as was said in the last panel, she's always taught us to look at positive examples, that why and under what circumstances do you find success, or things that work well when they're not supposed to. And in some ways, a lot of people that are new to this say, well, how do you define success? And one gets into all of that. And what if the success doesn't last? But fascinating in her work has been how she hasn't really been worried about the impermanence of success that one has studied at any given point in time, because she's been able to draw lessons that have helped people look in interesting and different ways, despite the success not lasting. And she's turned it on its head and made it into a research question, that why is it that something that works well sometimes doesn't work well at other times? Why is it that there's a somnolent bureaucracy suddenly becomes really innovative? Or why is it that you have collective action and cooperation where there's been a lot of history of conflict? And that has been the enduring example of the way in which her teaching and lessons have traveled across the different projects that a lot of us have worked on. So today we have 3 examples of how her work has been shaped. How her students' work has been shaped by her instruction. And we begin with Anu, who is a fellow in governance and public policy at the Institute of Development Studies at Sussex. And she has looked at collective action and social accountability in institutions in a variety of different sectors, including the informal economy and issues of taxation. She'll be followed by Mansueto. Mansueto is currently finishing up his dissertation in the Department of Studies and Planning, and is also working at the Brazilian Institute for Applied Economic Research, IPEA. He will also be talking about his work on the informal economy. And finally, we have Salo, who is assistant professor now of international development at NYU's Wagner School. And he has looked a lot at enforcement of environmental standards and the role of prosecutors. So after they present, I'll say a couple of summarizing themes, and hope